Session 3 and 4 taught by Dr. Reams in Black in 1977. This is Tape 5 Side A.
Monday, June the 27th, 1977, 5:30 p.m. Session number 3 and 4, Dr. Reams' Biological Theory of Ionization, taught by Dr. Reams and Dr. John L. Black. 5-6/7/1-7/1-77.
Instead of 3 days, I need 4 days, because that urea should be above 12. It means that the body chemistry change, the withdrawal, is not yet complete. Now, let me make an exception to that rule. The exception to that rule is that people that are too weak, there are people that are so weak you cannot put them on a fast. But those people should be in a retreat. You should not try it at home. In other words, if they're weak enough that you cannot safely put them on a fast, then put them in a retreat where they can be cared for properly. Now, the next day, this is the 4th day. This is the 3rd day here. Now, let's look at the 4th day, what we have. We'll have a 1.2, and of course, they've gotten a colonic, and this has probably dropped down to 7, and the liver is still 6. It wouldn't change very much. And you've got a 4 there instead of a 1 and a 4M. And you've got a 7 over 7. And that means that now then that they've completed the first stages of withdrawal and probably all of the withdrawal. But suppose the patient doesn't vomit at all, that they're not sick at their stomach. Then the excessive bile, the hydrochloric acid, will pass out through the digestive tract, and it will burn the rectal area very, very badly, almost to the point that they scream, especially children. And these are factors that you need to keep in mind why people should be put in a retreat. Now, you will only find possibly, that depends on the area you're in, about 5% of all the people that you test needs to be in a retreat. So, I'm not trying to give a lecture to get people in a retreat. I'm trying to get you to realize your potential. And as soon as they finish the retreat and their body chemistry levels off, they're given a diet. Then they're told to go back and have a test once a week, or every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks, or once a month, or what depends upon how ill they are as to how often they have tests. And they also, for instance, and this body chemistry supposed that they were told to go back in a week to get a test up there on a pH. Now, they were on Mincol, they were on vitamin D, they were on lime water, because they had a pH of 560 over 540. This would be a vitamin D case. This is the pH. Suppose then that they come to you and their energy rating has been rather low, and you find that they've got a 740 over 580. Now, they need a colonic. They need to change from Cal-2. They need to change from Cal-2 to calcium lactate. And they need to stop the lime water and also the vitamin D, but then I would put them on a calcium gluconate, because the liver is not assimilating enough calcium. So your bottom number, the saliva pH, equals the pH of your liver. So this one will not change the upper number, and the colonics will take care of your upper number, the 740, and the gluconate will take care of the 580 and slowly pick it up. If you find people that are seriously ill, very seriously ill, you do not give them Cal-2, you give them lime water, vitamin D, and also calcium gluconate in pretty heavy amounts, because they cannot assimilate Cal-2, even though it has yeast in it. They need something very, very low. Suppose you had a patient with a 490 pH. It doesn't matter which number, the top or the bottom or both. Then I would give them calcium gluconate instead of Cal-2. I would also give them lime water and 10,000 units of vitamin D twice a day. But don't try to give them 10,000 units of vitamin D with only 400 units to the tablet. Get a doctor's prescription. for the 10,000 units of vitamin D, and that will pick it up. Also, Dr. Black mentioned a few minutes ago, numbness of the hands and feet. B6 is to be used for numbness of the hands and feet. Use it as kind of as directed. For you don't generally find that on children. It's only in adults over about 25 years old that you generally find it. However, I have found a few cases of younger than that. Use vitamin D, 250 milligrams, twice a day between meals for numbness of the hands or feet. B6, beg your pardon, B6, not D, but B6, and that generally will help terrifically in numbness of the hands and feet. What's that? 250 milligrams, yes. Twice a day between meals, yes. D, vitamin D is given when the pH is below what number? 540. Either one of them. 540. When the pH is below 540, you give vitamin D. Now, for instance, if you had, let me give you this one. Here's a little different one. Let's suppose that we had let's say a 510, and we had a 690 pH. Then you'll still give vitamin D. You still give vitamin D and Cal-2 and lime water because it wouldn't affect the liver to match anything at all. You use vitamin D, 10,000 units, if you're not getting enough calcium to the liver. Now, in course 1, we told you why sometimes the calcium, or 2 reasons why the liver could not accept enough calcium. Can you tell me what they are? There are 2 reasons why sometimes the liver, most of the time, 2 major reasons why the liver does not accept calciums. Can you tell me what those 2 those reasons are? A lack of oxygen is one, yes. In other words, you're not getting enough oxygen from the lungs to the liver. Now, what is the other one? A lack of water, too, but that's not the major reason. It's a catalytic reason, but not a major reason. In other words, there's too much alcohol, too much whiskey, too much beer, or the pancreas is manufacturing too much alcohol, the cirrhosis of the liver. So sometimes I find people and I tell them they're alcoholics. I said, I've never had a drop of alcohol in my life, not even a beer, ale, or anything. I said, I didn't say that you have. The pancreas is manufacturing too much alcohol, and therefore those people should drink black coffee because that cuts alcohol. Cheapest, quickest, easiest way to cut the alcohol. And a lot of them have hangovers, terrific headaches, wake up in the morning, lightheaded, dizzy, because their pancreas makes too much alcohol. Why does it manufacture too much alcohol? Because the liver is malfunctioning, not making the right amount of other enzymes to take care of these adrenaline glands and so forth that Dr. Black has been telling you about, of which we'll go deeper and deeper into those as we continue the courses. Both? Suppose a person tells you, well, I just haven't got time to go to the retreat. I'm too busy. What are you going to tell them? Well, what I tell them is this. You don't have to go. Is there any, then they'll say, is there anything, or what else can I do? This is what I wanted to ask. This is the question I'm trying to get them to ask. Well, I said, you can buy a cemetery lot. You can tell your friends that you haven't got long to stay here. You can get all the insurance you can get. And this is the next step, because I'm not going to give you a diet, because it would only be good for 2 days. You can't keep working. Now, you are taking every shortcut that I know for you to get yourself to the cemetery. What's the big hurry? And right away, they find a way to get there. Right away. And stick to what you know. Don't let them out-talk you, because they're the ones that's going to point the finger at you and said they didn't know what they were talking about. They gave me a diet that almost killed me when they were just going through an ordinary withdrawal. and you're going to find children, preschool age, that are in a diabetic range. Send those children to the retreat, and generally 1 week is all they need. The parent has to come with them to get their body's sugar back to normal. Now, don't try to do that, even though, or unless the person's in your home, unless you have been thoroughly trained on the reactions that a child will go through in a withdrawal. A child gives up more like an animal to the chemical changes within its body more so than adults. We keep driving on. The child doesn't. He gives up. So as the child goes into withdrawal, he vomits, and that scares mother. And then he gets over it, and he feels better, and he feels like playing. He gets up and plays, and he hollers, "I'm hungry," and mother is told not to feed him, and sometimes she does, and then that upsets the whole program. She can't stand to hear her child beg for food. And you've got to have them where you can control the food intake, and also the child the second day, every time he gets the lemonade to his nose, it makes him sick at his stomach, and then you've got to encourage him. Now, a child under 4 years old generally cannot cooperate. You have to give it through enemas to them 3 or 4 times or 5 times a day to bring it down. Also, it's an excellent idea to give them comfrey tea to drink with some gluconates in it, to which the child would take. It's also all right to add some of the gluconates, like sucralose, sweet and low, to the lemonade, and that'll work a little while. But do the best you can to get a child under 4 through it. But at 4 years old, if you're on a retreat, you can talk to the child and tell him he's a big man and a big girl, and begin to get the child's cooperation, and that you won't have to stick a needle in him if he does what you tell him. But if you don't, then he's going to be on insulin and then have to stick needles in him the rest of his life. And they may forget a few times and whimper a little bit, but they get through it like a topper. But as soon as the child goes through the retreat, generally, the withdrawal, generally if you start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and a child, you only give them about anywhere 1 to 2 ounces, not 4 ounces at a time. I'm speaking about preschool age children, and then you work it out according to their weight, so they can have it about 8 times in a day instead of just a few times in a day. Then, as the child begins to get over it, the tension within that child is relaxed, and that child will go to sleep, and maybe sleep anywhere from 18 to, I've seen them sleep up to 40 hours. And yet, their eyes roll back in their head, they're so completely relaxed, you pick them up, it's like a rag. You can't get them awake enough hardly to eat, and it just about scares mother and daddy to death. And you're talking about fighting a tiger cat. They'll fight you. They will fight you, but the thing that you must do is to tell them what to expect. And the pulse is normal, and everything is going along real well. If the child is 4 years old, they generally will wake up when they want to urinate. They generally don't wet the bed. And this is encouraging, but they have to have help. They're so groggy and so weak that they have to have help to get to the bathroom and back. But after they get over that sleep, you should see the energy and the vigor and vitality even before they start on their food that kid has. You cannot believe it. They are like a live wire when they come through it. And the parents are happy. The child is just a complete change in personality. Now, what's that? These are juvenile diabetics that are not yet on insulin. Now, these are in a retreat. These are children in a retreat. I'm telling you not to try these kind of cases at home, because it's going to take all of your time, and you're busy. You've got other people to see. But in a retreat, they are prepared to take care of these kind of children. Now, in Roanoke, Virginia, it's $390, $395 per week per child, and half that amount for the parent that's with it. In Blue Ridge, Georgia, it's $300, $250 to $300, and then half that amount is for the person that's with the child. Here, it's $500 and half the amount because of the expenses that's involved in maintaining it. This is the nicest place of all. But I do hope within a year or more to have some lovely mobile homes that we can decrease the cost in here for the poor people. We do not throw them out because they're absolutely poor, but we do require a letter from the minister or the county judge if they don't have a minister, or the welfare board, saying that this person is unable to pay. And then they're put on a waiting list, and then as soon as their time comes up, they're notified. You can only allocate so many beds for charity patients and still stay above. If you didn't, we would have all the charity patients in the United States, and you wouldn't have enough operating capital to stay above board. But we have worked it out on a percentage basis wherein that we know how many people we can take and how much we can do for them. So these are factors to remember. If the person has a biochemistry that needs to be in a retreat, do not give them a diet. Do not let them pressure you into a diet, because and do not give them any vitamins or minerals. I mean, don't do anything for them. I mean, not anything you can do. I'll tell you about one case that I had. This doctor called, and this was a fellow that when I met him, he looked like Hercules. He was an athlete and great big muscles. You never saw such a fellow, and a very perfect picture of health, except that his urea was 29.8, and the selene was about 70. And we told him, in fact, I didn't even want him in the retreat with numbers that far because he had to drive about 1,100 miles. I told the doctor to put him, and he weighed 220 pounds, to put him on 4 ounces of plain distilled water every half hour for 12 hours, and then retest him. He was to start about 2 o'clock in the morning, and 4 o'clock in the morning, I guess, to be tested. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 o'clock in the morning and be tested 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the doctor called me back, and he said the fellow went home, and he come back. He said he swears he did exactly what he was told, and there's no change in the numbers. They're exactly the same as they were yesterday. What shall I do? I said, tell the fellow to buy a cemetery lot as quick as possible, and also go down and pay the undertaker, and also find a pastor for his funeral, because he has less than 30 days to live. He said, well, he's on the other phone. He heard what you said. I said, that's good. I'm glad you did, because I don't have to repeat it now. So the next day, there he sat across my desk. He'd driven that far with those numbers, and he said, Doctor, I'm the one that was in Dr. So-and-so's office yesterday, and he said, you said I had less than 30 days to live, and you like to scare me to death. And he said, I want you to take my case. I said, I'm not even about to take your case. I said, you said that you did what that doctor told you, and I'm not about to take your case. You're just going back to Pittsburgh to die. And he said, Doctor, listen, I've got the money to pay you. I said, I want you to take my case. I said, let me ask you one question, and I want the truth and 100% of the truth. And if you tell me the truth, I may take your case and I may not. I said, did you do what Dr. So-and-so said do? He said, no, I didn't. I said, then I'll take your case. Now, he ran a health food store, and he also ran a liquor store. So he was going to get them one way or the other. He also taught karate at night. And you know, while he was only there 5 days, and he gave his heart to the Lord, he went back and sold the liquor store. And today he has a very prosperous business in a health food store, and also still teaching karate and exercises and so forth. So you cannot fool these numbers.